Hi everyone. Well, something that I've been hearing recently on these reports about al-Baghdadi is that there are only two known photos of him, grainy headshots. So all these different newscasters and reporters have been saying the same thing over and over. And doesn't it make you wonder, why are there only two grainy headshots, that two known photos of him? That doesn't even make sense, because look at us. We have passport photos, we have all of our childhood photos. If we end up in some sort of situation with the police or go to prison, aren't they going to take all kinds of photos of us and document everything about us, height, weight, hair color, everything? But then there's only two grainy photos, so something is really odd about that. And then if you look at those photos, these are all degraded photos. Dang it. Something wrong with my computer. It always does that. But at least you get to see Jesus. Anyway, so see this, and they say that these two are the same person. Unbelievable. And now giving his speech with his Rolex watch, which could be fake, the Rolex watch, because you can buy a Rolex watch here in Hong Kong anytime you want, and everybody can afford it. But what I'm saying is, these photos here they turned his head into being totally round, and there's one down here where it looks kind of like could be a normal photo. Well, it was here a minute ago, but anyway, okay, let me see. Oh, let's just put in al-Baghdadi. Feels so ridiculous even saying that name. It just means from Baghdad, right? Or yeah, from Baghdad, kind of like Da Vinci. Okay, here. This one right here. This looks like the normal one that they've, like these weird ones came from this. Oh, and now they're saying that he did get shot, and just all these stories. And then this guy, yes, it's him, no, it isn't him. And they could probably have already set up doubles, to cover for each other and to pose, because it is all of a sham. Speaking of sham, And also I want to point out this to you. I was reading and came across a few articles about this guy being released in 2004 and not 2009 during the Obama regime. Is that right? Regime? Anyway, so some people say 2009 during Obama's reign, or 2004 during Bush. So here, look, Wikipedia. This guy released from early February until early December 2004 when he was released. So all these conflicting stories that they can just create and confuse people, and nobody knows what is true or what's right, but that's what they want, right? Sort of everybody just running around checking all sorts of information, and it all contradicts each other, so you never get to the bottom of it, and you never will. Never. Yeah, there's one of these videos on TV where it just sounds so ridiculous. It just sounds like they're talking to 5-year-olds, you know? And who's this? Is that supposed to be him there too? Who knows? They're just going to be promoting all kinds of ridiculous stories. But one thing that is true, they have to have photographs of and document all of these people and know exactly. And one guy, he said, yeah, I'm pretty sure, I think that's him. I remember him in Camp Bucca. His face looks familiar. And he's trying to, you know, affirm that this guy was the guy who said, I'll see you in New York. Really, I mean, you know, it is the case where they all look alike with beards and all that. Okay, and just want to show you this. I subscribe to Sovereign Man, and this, I was really surprised to get this in my email because it's very interesting. He is in Simon Black. He is in Erbil in Iraq right now, and he's writing from there. Is it true? What can we believe on the internet? I don't know. But this is what he says. More than 11 years ago, I was among tens of thousands of troops baking in the hot sun of the Kuwaiti desert, waiting for George Bush to make his decision. You can subscribe to Sovereign Man because it is really, really interesting. And he has lots of, he's really great the way he writes if you don't know him. So, anyway, what he is saying here is that he's there, and it's not what people are saying. Anyway, of course it was total baloney about George Bush. The decision to invade Iraq had already been made. They just needed more time to spin their stories about weapons of mass destruction and to promise the American media shock and awe. They were right about the latter. The forces assembled in Kuwait constituted one of the most well-trained, well-equipped in the history of warfare. And it was just a matter of weeks before the coalition forces Land Component Command, pronounced CFLIC, had taken control of most of Iraq. From a tactical perspective, this was nothing short of a modern miracle. The act of marshaling so many resources forward against an enemy opposition is no small feat. So what he's saying is that it took so long, so much time to prepare with such a big army with all the weapons, and it's impossible that the IS Islamic State could have done the same in such a short time. I think that's what he's saying. And as I've been back in this region for the last several days, I can't shake that thought. Because the story we're being told now is that this militant group, IS, same as ISIL, was able to take over nearly half of Iraq in a matter of days. But this isn't true because, I don't think, because if you look up al-Baghdadi, you just do a Google search, you're going to find a lot of stories about Islamic fighters who have pledged or made an oath to al-Baghdadi way back in October, November, and probably way before that too. So, yeah, maybe he's wrong, but this just doesn't make sense. IS rolled into Mosul with little more than pickup trucks and small arms, and they defeated a force nearly 20 times their size. I don't think this is actually right, now that I'm really thinking about it. Granted, the Iraqi military isn't exactly the world's most elite. A recent delegation from the United States came to Iraq a few weeks ago and judged the military to be mostly combat ineffective. We can just file that one away under Sherlock. This isn't particular to Iraq. The entire region is in the same boat. The Saudi and Kuwaiti militaries are so undisciplined, I expect they could be defeated by a crack paintball squad. But is this true? I don't know. I don't know them. But we're not talking about a tactically superior underdog besting an unwieldy, incompetent opponent or some drawn-out, demoralizing guerrilla war waged by clever insurgents. We're talking about straight-up conventional warfare, an IS army of 23-year-old kids versus Iraq's conventional ground units, armored vehicles, militia, gunships, and other air assets. But it's not just 23-year-olds. There are a lot of 23-year-olds who seems have gone there, but there's people who are dedicating, devoting their lives to it that have joined for different reasons, not just 23-year-olds, although I'm sure they're happy to have them. Even presuming that IS would eventually beat the pants off the Iraqi military, the speed with which they accomplished this is hardly credible, especially compared to the 2003 U.S. campaign. It doesn't add up, and yet IS has taken city after city this way. Yeah, that's true. I agree with this, but I think they've been planning for a long time, and they really gathered up weapons and had weapons filtered to them, etc. Not to mention the Kurdish intelligence chief had even handed over reports back in January to the CIA M16 Iraqi military indicating that a large militant force would attempt to invade northern Iraq. Okay, there we go. So is this contradictory? Bottom line, I expect there's far more to this story than we're being told. Of course. Much in the same way that there's far more than just the chaos story that dominates the headlines. In any situation, there are always winners and losers, so whether IS has plunged Iraq into chaos really depends on who you ask. The U.S. government obviously holds the view that Iraq is disintegrating, but their fundamental premise is deeply flawed. Iraq shouldn't even exist. This country was conjured out of thin air by European bureaucrats after the First World War with no regard for ethnic or traditional boundaries. You know how IS is bombing all the historical relics, but this was a goal of the New World Order. They want to destroy history so people don't have a link to the past. So I've read that before, a long time ago. I don't know where I read that, but this is one of the goals. That's why they don't care about stopping it. Anyway, British diplomat Sir Mark Sykes, an architect of Iraq, was reported to have looked over a map of the region and remarked, "I should like to draw a line from the E in Acre to the last K in Kirkuk." So insensitive, isn't that? U.S. politicians might call this chaos and insist that a united Iraq is stronger Iraq. But it only seems natural that a nation born from such imperialistic dogmas should break apart. Meanwhile, if you ask the Kurds, they'll tell you things are going remarkably well. From where I sit right now, this is the interesting part. From where I sit right now, IS forces are within a few dozen miles on three sides, but there is hardly a tenor of concern here in Erbil. This just sounds impossible. Why would he go to Iraq at this time? Aside from a few normal checkpoints, there has been no security clampdown, public or private. Last night at a restaurant, my friends and I passed through a metal detector, only to find that it wasn't even plugged in. And I ran into a guard armed with nothing more than a whistle yesterday morning. Much of this stems from supreme confidence in the Kurdish militia, Peshmerga, at a well-equipped force that numbers into hundreds of thousands, and they're just as committed as IS militants. It was Peshmerga that took oil-rich Kirkuk a few weeks ago after Iraqi units abandoned the city. Again, IS wasn't even anywhere near the place. Quite odd. So, in just a month's time, the Kurds have managed to assert their autonomy, increase their oil holdings, take back their traditional capital, Kirkuk, and maintain security. This is definitely not chaos. Don't you find this strange? Quite the opposite. The country has some of the most compelling opportunity in the world right now. More on that tomorrow. compelling opportunity. I don't know what I think about this. About the author, Simon Black is an international investor, entrepreneur, permanent traveler, free man, and founder of Sovereign Man. His free daily e-letter and crash course is about using the experiences from his life and travels to help you achieve more freedom. So you can sign up if you want to. But just want to show you this also, that Alitalia, the Italian airline, is being bought by this airline, 49%, and they're going to invest more, and it's funded by an Islamic bank that uses Sharia, let's see, what do you call it, law, Sharia, you know. Anyway, so biggest investment in Alitalia is going ahead. So this has been being worked on for a while, and so they're in agreement about it now. And all right, here it is. Unions ready to negotiate with Etihad over Alitalia deal. But there's, you know, they have the money to invest in these companies that are going bankrupt. So maybe they will take over Europe. Who knows? But what else I wanted to show you is how the Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank is changing its name and rebranding itself so that they can have more appeal to, here it is, to go mainstream and get people who are non-Muslims involved. Abu Dhabi Islamic Bank will become Abu Dhabi International Bank. Anyway, interesting stuff going on. Abu Dhabi International Bank is in the process of acquiring a large number of such customers. In April, it said it had agreed to buy the United Arab Emirates retail banking operations of Barclays for an expected price of 650 million dirhams, 177 million. So a lot of info here that I won't go into because you can look it up for yourself. Anyway, it's creeping into Western society, seems to me. All right, thanks for listening, and God bless all of you, and stay safe. Don't take the chip, and if you have to lose your head in the future because you have a choice of either renouncing Jesus Christ or being part of the beast system and living in this world, then it's better to lose your head. Okay? Because we're warned about it. So God bless you all. Be happy and have a nice day.